Use a conference. To mute line, press *6. To out, press #6.
To mute your line, press *6 or #6. To mute your line, press *6 or #6.
Welcome, everyone. It is time, so let's get started. A couple of items right up front. Make sure your phones are muted. And if you have questions or comments throughout this, you can put them in the Q&A or chat windows, and we will address them at the end. So with that, to it. Welcome everyone to the Contractor Journey webcast series on managing subs better for project managers. Today we're talking about subcontractor compliance in the construction phase. That I'm showing right now kind of breaks out and shows the contractor journey in all its glory. So normally when we think of phases of a construction project, we think of pre-construction, construction, and post. Down the middle of the slide, you see those three towards the bottom of the middle. What we've learned in the process is that a lot of stuff is just piled into pre-construction. Things like planning, building profits project by project, business development activities, bidding, and we broke those out separately. Within each of these phases, there are a whole list of business processes. And within each business process, we cover the basics of that process, best practices, tips, things to watch out for, and solutions of that process. Subcontractor compliance is one of those processes under the construction phase. So the webcast series is put on by Sage Construction Group out of Beaverton, Oregon. And my name is Phil Bride. I'm a business consultant and executive coach working with Sage on business process activities and work with contractors and subs on helping their business grow. Here too is Sage Construction is Koahu, who at the end of this introduction to subcontractor compliance will print and talk about different Sage solutions, subcontractor compliance. So there will be a product, give it as a product commercial at the end of this introduction to sub compliance. So Koahu, welcome everyone. We will cover how the IRS defines a subcontractor, work required, and as you know, there's lots of it. Select a sub, which is the sub prequal, which we covered yesterday in a separate webcast, but we'll hit the highlights today. Risk areas, some best practices of subcontractor compliance, and then I'll turn it over to Koahu to talk about some of the solutions around this. Okay, so IRS has specific opinions about what a subcontractor is. And the difference between an employee and a subcontractor really depends on your right to direct and control the worker, not on what you declare the worker, or whether you file 1099 or not. It's how you treat the person, which, you know, a lot of people, especially smaller companies, are well versed in this, but, you know, sometimes we step over bounds and the IRS takes issues with it. Large companies tend to get away with it. And being trained 1099s as employees, and in fact, they call them a 1099 employee. So contractors, as we know, receive 1099s. Employees get W-2s. In determining the whole employment tax status of a worker, the IRS looks at three main categories of it. Behavioral control. So if you come in and you train the person on do their job, tell them in detail how, and direct their behavior in the job, they're an employee, not a 1099. Which is the second one. If they have to invest in their own tools, their own, of course, they're responsible for their own taxes if they're a 1099. But if they invest in their own tools and any expenses, and they kind of control their own P&L and bottom line, they are a 1099. The third one is relationship of the parties. So employee benefits. A good thing is to have 1099 quote-unquote employees and give them benefits in addition to it. That's really an employee, a W-2 type person. So is there a written contract, and is the relationship in accordance with the person being a contractor or employee? So the IRS has two tests, actually, to determine whether they're an employee or not. And by the way, the test does not include, do you declare them as a 1099? The first test they use is the consistency test. Do you consistently file 1099s for all workers doing the same task in this manner? And the reasonable basis test. Is there a court case to back you up? Maybe their IRS audit back you up if you're lucky enough to win one of those. Interestingly enough, on this very front, smaller companies, smallish, 100 million, they watch pretty carefully by the IRS. Larger companies tend to get away with it. However, I just heard recently that UPS just had a class action suit filed against them over this very issue because they hire lots of 1099 employees. The class action suit, we'll see how that plays out, but I'm sure the IRS is watching that carefully because larger companies tend to get away with it. So, next. This law, really, it covers a lot of things, and the E-Verify is a pretty big deal, especially today. It requires that companies employ only individuals who can legally work here. Yes, we know that. The civil fines and criminal penalties are pretty steep, and one of the penalties is debarment from government contracts, and the big one is court orders to come in and for you to make payments. It's like garnishing your invoice collection. Criminal violations. I went and took a look at the criminal violations around the whole E-Verify thing. They really worked this through in detail. Turns out there's 14 categories, and with lots of different violations underneath each one, and the penalties range from hundreds of dollars to tens of thousands per violation. The big thing that they're looking for is the engagement in a pattern or practice of hiring, recruiting unauthorized aliens. So turns out the three levels that they look for. First first order to stop and desist from hiring illegals is like $500 to $4,000 per violation. Second order a contractor may get is $4,000 to $10,000 per violation, and the third and more is $7,000 to $20,000 plus per violation. So they come people when they come after people, the violations and the costs get pretty high. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about bonds. Bonds, as we all know, bonds are a big deal and really help us get bigger contracts, and we have to have the bonds to support those contracts. We have to have the bonds matching. So the big question for subs is what kind of bond do they have? Do they have a payment or a performance, or is there none of those? And one of the big issues is to write it into your contract for the sub. Make sure that it's very clear. She's really pay attention to our bonds, and the sureties who write these bonds have, they're all over the map, and some are highly reputable, and they have ratings per these organizations. Standard & Poor's, Moody's, and AM Best rate various sureties on their quality of making payments if there's any kind of issue, quality of their bond. There are onerous clauses that reputable sureties look for in your contract with subcontractors. So some clauses that good sureties look out for in your contract is things like extended discovery periods, notice required to change something, pass-through alleviated damages, and if paid can also cause difficulties in getting a bond of certain levels. So there's 4 things that really: extended discovery periods, no notice, pass-through, and paid. All are warning flags, especially for moving up in the bond hierarchy, getting bigger and bigger, better quality bonds. Of course, behind this, and we're not going to dive into it any more than this. The big thing, and then the light here is, of course, need to watch expiration dates and the required level, and make it matches what your bonds are for the job from your subs. So paperwork, it is a necessary evil, and really don't want to ignore it. Don't ignore it at all, and there's a lot of it. Compliance in the construction industry are on the rise. The Form I-9s along with the E-Verify are on the rise by the feds, and they're out on the hunt for mistakes. So it could be on your side or on your sub side, of which, depending on which state you're in, could roll up to you. But even if it doesn't roll up to you, if your subs get nailed by it, it could cause a problem in your schedules, if nothing else. So they're on the look for it, and for the I-9 forms, and there's 5 common mistakes, and that costs between $100 and $1,000 per mistake. Things like writing too much or too little information, missing information, they're not updated at expiration date or before expiration date, and a couple of other items around discrimination and who can complete what sections of these forms. And it's all pretty, it can get picky, especially if you come in and they do an audit on you or an audit on your subs, especially during a job. Aspect of this is auditors now have online access to resources such as state boards, and so determine if subs are properly licensed for your jobs and insured, and looking to catch violations more easily. So that depends on your state and how picky they are. Here again, where Koahu and I live and work, the state of Oregon is passing laws each year. New laws are getting passed that restrict, specifically aimed at the construction industry. for all kinds of things around compliance, subcontractor compliance, workers' comp, and other things around safety, and the big one is waste. But that's kind of a separate issue. Insurance companies don't want to pay any more than they have to on claims, and so they're tightening their rules to reduce their own risk. So they're looking for the workers' comp experience modifier. If you're not familiar with it, this is a ratio. 1 to 1 means it's industry average of workers' comp claims being done against that company. It is just the industry average across the whole industry. Okay, so that means if a company has a workers' comp modifier of 1, they're right in the average and they pay whatever the premium is. The 2, they pay a 20% premium. If it's 0.8, they 20% discount, more or less. It's good to know what your workers' comp modifier is and what your subs comp. So if you have let's say you set up a compliance rule or level that you want something 1 or below, and you have subs that are at 1.2 or 1.3, there's recklessness or there's some claims happening on those subs that you may not want to deal with. But insurance companies and sureties look at that, whether you do or not. Surety agents are also looking beyond financials, and they're looking at things to analyze how well you and your subs run business, manage suppliers, manage the 1099s that work for them, and look for business acumen, things like dog rates, the days away restrictions and transfers of workers on the job sites, best in company rating of insurance. So all kinds of things are being looked at, whether you provide for them or not, because a lot of this stuff is online and available, and they can just go around you. Okay. Some important tips to keep in mind when selecting subs. This in the sub pre-qual was yesterday, but this is just a brief little summary of it. And of course, in selecting subs, there are several categories from experience, which we normally think of right up front. It's like, can they do the job? Yes or no? But the things like accountability, how well they manage their business management skill set. Do they manage their WIP and over/under billing and their financials well? Do they have kind of litigation history? And what are their business processes, not just their ability to get the job done and manage a schedule, but their business processes of running a company, especially if they're on multiple job sites, pricing, billing, safety, reputation, all that good stuff. So how you rate, the big question is, how do you rate subs on these topics, and what criteria do you have in place, and processes do you have to keep it up to date and track it? A lot of times our go-to tool is Excel, which works fine, but it's kind of a pain in the butt, especially if you get bigger. So regardless of what tool you use, get a process in place, because a process, I make the assertion that process and getting it understood and in place always precedes automating it, because then automation starts to make sense. Because during automation or automation process, questions are going to be asked, what do you want to do? And that process, well understood first, working for your situation. Enough on that. There are really is to pay attention to: uninsured workers, lien waivers, and certified payroll. And really, the idea is that you've got to prove it. Most states require coverage for workers, and some states even have the subs. As a GC, you're liable for the subs if a worker for a sub gets injured on your site. So that's something they'd be aware of in your state. Lien waivers, pretty straightforward. If you have a good lawyer in place and make sure your subs understand the lien waivers and how they work for them as payment gets made and transfer of ownership happens. And certified payroll, of course, especially for public jobs. And, move here. There's 6 common businesses. And this one is create a culture of compliance. Create this culture within your company and make sure the subs understand that it is to be expected. This is something that can be delegated. This really has to come from the top guys and get just flow throughout the company. Make sure everyone understands the rules. Make sure you understand the rules, because there's a lot of laws being passed fast and furiously in different jurisdictions all the time. So make sure you're getting with your attorney at least on a yearly basis and check for compliance advice and you get the things set for your company. It's an automated process. But you can, because the paperwork can get out of control very quickly. And your project management and accounting system. Make sure your project managers and accounting group talk, because this compliance will come down to whether pay subs or not, and whether you hold back if things out of compliance and expiration dates go by you. Monitor the compliance. I say daily here, and the idea is that at least you have alerts if something is going to expire in 30 days, and you get these alerts on a daily basis, ongoing basis. Annually would be out of control, but as often as you can if you don't have it automated. And if your own audit, it's easy to do a dry run and find out problems where there's no cost involved than to wait for the real thing and be surprised and, oh my God, get these hefty penalties and fees. So it's can conduct your own audit once or twice a year and be prepared and show the people in your company and the subs that you take this seriously. Okay, so I'd like to pass it over to Kuahu. He will take this and run with it.
Thank you, Phil. 1 second to my screen here and pull up my show.
Can you do anything on my side? No? Okay.
There we go. Hello, everyone. Once again, my name is Ka'ohu. I'm the sales engineer here for the Sage Construction and Real Estate team. And kind of speak to a lot of the information that Phil was presenting today is kind of give you a sense of what solutions do we offer to help you with this complete, subcontractor compliance and keeping track of everything, making sure your company has complete visibility and awareness as to what's going on a day-to-day basis. So this slide here, it kind of paints the overall picture of the solutions we provide while highlighting the different areas within your business. Likely we'll be focusing around some Sage My Assistant components that can be used to optimize and extend the functionality of your software, as well as some My Communicator components specifically used in Outlook for tracking of correspondence and information, and our Sage Paperless solution, which you might already aware of as our complete document management system with also abilities to provide AP flow and subcontractor compliance verification. So this is My Assistant. If you're not already familiar with My Assistant, think of it as one of our solutions that provides each client. You're looking to get information on a regular basis, or when certain parameters are within the software, Sage My Assistant has the ability to send out reports or emails based upon certain criteria you set within the system. Now, by default, you can see in this list, it comes with a list of vendor compliance tasks already set up within My Assistant. Provide information of lien waivers that haven't been received within 30 days, missing certified reports, all available right out of the box when you start using Sage My Assistant. All you need to do is enter in the necessary criteria for the information you currently have in your software, and it takes over from there and sends you the information as that criteria is fulfilled. Now, this is an example of one of those emails that you'll automatically get when you're using Sage My Assistant tasks. So I can use it to pull up your information with missing or expired insurance, easily available and automatic without me having to log into accounting to extract that information for verification. My Commuter. My Commuter is an Outlook add-in specifically for 300 CRE, allowing you to easily set up notifications and alerts if you're a user that operates a lot within Outlook. So you can set up, whether it's verifying information for subcontractor compliance specifically, insurance, certified reports, readily available directly in Outlook. That way, anyone out in the field can have direct visibility into what's going on as long as they have access to their Outlook, all available directly from their device based upon what the criteria you set up within Sage Accounting. And Sage Paperless. Sage Paperless has been our hottest ticket for our customers out there right now. Not only does it have at its core an optimum flow process that allows you to capture, enter, and route around invoices for approval, it also provides you the ability to store, track, and historically keep all of your subcontractor compliance information and documents, whether it's purchase order, subcontracts, certificate of insurance copies from your vendor. All that information is readily available for you to pull up within Sage Paperless, as well as attach it to the necessary records over in accounting for you to easily access, pull up, send, report, keep all your fingertips. Now, Paperless itself is much more beyond that, but at its core, it does a lot of the subcontractor compliance storage of information that you currently be looking for right now. And hand it on back over to Phil.
Okay, did I unmute myself?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. There was a question that came through. Is there a joint check agreement in Sage that can be used? And short answer is yes, there is. I'm not sure that there's an agreement per se, but there is the capability built into Sage 300 CRE. Are you familiar with this at all, Koahu?
As far as tracking a joint check within accounts payable for 300 CRE, there's a field for that. As well as within Sage Paperless, you have the ability to say, invoice from the vendor, but you also need to possibly tag a document of that specific joint payee agreement that is completely you can totally do that within Sage Paperless and tag it along with the invoice document as you route it around for approval. That is definitely something you can do within Sage Paperless.
Great. It looks like that's the only question I see at this point. Okay. Well, with that, I'd like to thank everyone. We'll hang out here for another moment or another minute or two, and in case any more questions come through. But my name is Phil Bride, business consultant and executive coach specializing in business processes and helping companies get back together to grow. And Koahu is an expert in Sage construction and real estate solutions out of Sage. Contact us for more information, phil@philbride.com or cresales@sage.com. And on the Sage side, Koahu would love to dive in and show you detailed demos of some of this stuff if you're interested in seeing how it could work for your specific application on any of the things he talked about. Drop him an email with that. Free to contact either of us if you come a couple hours later and go, shoot, I wish I would have asked, whatever. Drop us a quick email. We'd be happy to get that information to you. I don't see any more questions coming through unless I missed something. No anymore. Oh. A question is, there's a comment. I'm looking for the joint check agreement. And I don't think Sage 300 has the actual agreement in it. It's just, as Koahu said, so you can track it. So I'd like to thank everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Appreciate taking your time out. Tomorrow we're doing project management. Same time, different registration, but same time of day. And it's the basics and introduction to project management with KPIs for project managers and responsibilities, all that good stuff. With that, thanks and have a good day.